Hey, Doug and Pat here with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners. And today we're going to talk about going from client to co-owner. And really, we're talking about the clients that we have. And, in many ways, that's kind of how this whole Wealthy Gym Owner thing started, right? It was client to co-owner. But, right now we're in the middle of something really exciting in our world, this launch of Athletes Acceleration sports performance franchise, where we've partnered with Graham Wilkerson, a successful longtime client who's done incredible work in the sports performance landscape. Built, originally one location, and now they're up to four. And heck, just yesterday I was back and forth with him about a potential fifth location that they're exploring. And Graham came and expressed an interest in franchising. We talked through some of that since I had some pretty extensive experience founding two franchises. He had one of these kind of holding companies that go and kind of just find successful businesses and say, hey, we'll franchise this and give you a percentage of it. And we talked through the pros and cons of that, and how it might not necessarily be a good fit, but was worth exploring. And he did. And at the same time, you and I said, okay, what would this look like if we collaborated with Graham and we kind of were able to fill in the gaps through a partnership and maybe give him that extra kind of collaboration and input he needed to build what I think has the potential to be a really game-changing franchise in that market. And that was really our first foray into saying, okay, we want to bet on our clients. We want to say, hey, this is somebody that we really believe in. This is somebody that we're ready to invest not only time in as a business coach, but our own money, our own resources, because we believe in what they're doing. We believe in the person, and they're kind of right in line with the relationships that we want to have. We want to go deep in this stuff instead of kind of just go way too wide. So I think that's been kind of the kickoff to this whole kind of mentality that I think that we've embraced through coaching. So I know we're exploring even the next path. So I'm going to shift gears and let you talk a little bit through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because to go back, when I first started the gym, I was, I had seen partnerships and, from the outside looking in, I was like, man, I don't think I've ever seen a good partnership. And I was kind of scared of it. But I think, that partially was, of course, the bad news always gets the headlines, right? But I think fast forward now, kind of talk about making a 180 mindset shift over the years, realizing that a piece of a bigger pie is often better than having the whole smaller pie to yourself. And the benefit of collaboration, the benefit of teamwork. Again, we use sports analogies in our business a lot. I think it's very relevant that you can have stud athletes, but they're not going to go. There's no team out there that's one person, right? The definition of a team is multiple players. So I think building that team idea, and now obviously, having been through the client, then a client to coach, then, now partner, I think it's been fun to see the evolution. And, one of the strategies that I think is maybe untapped in this industry that we'd like to explore is this whole idea of, obviously there's traditional business coaching, but then what does it look like to partner and collaborate with a gym where maybe they're a great operator, they have our systems installed, they have our marketing plans installed, but they're just lacking capital. that I think is an interesting play that we're looking to explore and excited about it because, I think it really comes back to like, Graham's when I first started connecting with Graham in our coaching program, he was a phenomenal operator, had a really good vision, but lacked systems. Like his systems were kind of scattered in sports performance world. That's even harder to kind of standardize systems, I think, just given the demographic. And so, hopefully he saw value in kind of utilizing my strengths with organizing things and kind of getting the business organized. And then obviously, with you having the franchise experience, I think that's the definition of building a team. So when we look at gym owners as they're looking to expand, maybe it's capital, maybe it's, marketing strategy that they don't want to be bogged down with, whatever. But I think, constantly looking at how can you fill the gap of what somebody else, it's not that they couldn't do it. It's just, we all want to spend our day doing the things that we enjoy, and that may be different than what somebody else enjoys.
Well, and I think that, this kind of vision that we have of this wealthy gym owner, right? Like this idea of, hey, you can turn this gym into a vehicle for something, bigger that has the impact that you want to have for your life, but maybe more impact on whether it's team members and some upward mobility or more clients. Um, I think that I know I can speak for me, and I think I know how you feel about this, but I'm very much into the relationship side of it, the transformation side of it. I'm not somebody who's ever really done much gravitating towards just the transactional piece of this. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, there's value to be derived from, okay, I pay for this thing and I get it in return. I just like the entire journey. I like investing in people. I like that. Yeah, and that probably dates back to my time coaching college baseball, right? And I mean, I think it's an interesting opportunity because it allows people to maybe go farther, like people that are in our coaching program in our circles, to go farther than they might have been comfortable going on their own. Because any of this stuff, I mean, we all heard the stories like the second location's the hardest, right? And so we have a lot of people in our ecosystem right now um, who are exploring a second location or already in motion for a second location. And for some of them, they may have all the confidence in the world, plenty of capital to execute it. But for others, they may say, look, you know what, I've done great here, but I want more, but there's that kind of sticking point. And I think that that's one of the exciting things about being able to bet on the people you work with, the people that you're close to, because in the environment, at least the coaching environment that we operate in, it's very interactive and not necessarily just here's the information. You get to know people pretty well, and you get to know like, okay, yeah, we could not only bet on this person, but it's somebody that our strengths complement theirs, our resources complement theirs. And so being able to do that for us, obviously there's probably some business upside to it for sure. But for them, business upside, mitigation of risk, some peace of mind because a lot of them, they had to go through a lot to get to the point where they had a successful gym. They aren't super eager to go back to feeling like they're just scrambling again. And so I think we can alleviate a lot of that. And so obviously Graham, the franchise thing's a little bit bigger. I'm not going to go recommend that everybody who's got a solid single location explore the franchising route. In fact, I would tell you the opposite. But Graham had this wonderful proof of concept, like, hey, we can go get other people to do this where I'm not the bus driver for all of it. And it worked. And so I think maybe from my perspective, I'm big on like takeaways from these things. It's like, I mean, there are different ways to operate. Maybe the way that's best for you to operate is this straight kind of Planet Fitness transactional thing that is you pay for this, you get access to that. And and that's totally fine. And obviously they do very well. And maybe there's a step up beyond that as a gym owner. Or, maybe it's like, hey, you know what, I want to go deep and invest, you know, even more in my clients. I want to make sure that I have a maybe a smaller group, but deeper relationships and have more of an impact on their life. I don't know that there's like a right answer. There's just probably a right answer for each of us. So I think the not being kind of pigeonholed and saying there's only one way to do this um, is a mistake I see a lot of owners make, and I think that this is probably an example of how you can break away from that.
Yeah. My one of my big takeaways with all this is the speed factor. I think is maybe potentially in certain circumstances undervalued. For example, if in our case somebody, in your case, you didn't have the prior franchise experience, think about the learning curve that somebody would have to go through or the money that they would have to spend to learn slash overpay to get set up on the legal side, right? So, similar to why I think the coaching, the business coaching stuff, the mentorship stuff is so valuable is you're essentially, avoiding the mistakes that person already has made or people in that group have made. So I think the speed factor is undervalued. I was talking with a client yesterday and he's like, I'd love to do a second location, but it's probably going to be, 12 to 18 months before I can save up enough money to fund it. And, it was his coaching call. So I kind of, moved on, but thinking in the back of my head, well, if that's the only bottleneck, or the only constraint, what happens if that's solved today? And now you can open 3 months from now with, a gym and now you have another year runway and you look back and you start to snowball some of those things together. 5 years from now, you're in a whole different position as opposed to kind of waiting until you had all the stars aligned.
Very good. So, well, hopefully this gives you some ideas and thinks about, or, some thoughts on how you can just evolve your business and say, okay, what would happen if I solve these problems for the people that I serve? How can I make my business maybe more transformational, less transactional? And obviously, as always, if there's anything that we can do to help you unpack some of that, just shoot us a message and would love to help. That's another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners signing off.